Hey Kyle, it's me, Kyle from the past, once again here to walk you through how to do pottery stuff that you forget on a regular basis. Today we're going to do linoleum printed tumblers. Let's go. Get yourself a nice smooth working surface, grab your scraper, smooth it on out. We're going to be using white stoneware for this, cone 6 white stoneware. Get yourself about 4 pounds. You know you don't measure this, but for now, let's say 4 pounds. Peel it on up. So this comes, what's it called? Pugged and mixed and all ready to go. You like to use this rather than the stoneware that we have on hand. This one tends to, it's a little bit denser. The other one's really good for throwing. I don't like throwing with this clay. This one's a lot better for hand building. It's a little bit stiffer. Also, you got it for free. So, free is always best. So what you're doing here is you're kind of throwing it down on the table to create a little rectangle, a little nice little gold brick here. That's going to make it a lot easier to roll through this slab roller we have here. You can roll this out just with a rolling pin. That is totally fine, Kyle. But we got a slab roller, so let's go ahead and just use that. Slab it down. We're putting it on top of a piece of canvas. This is going to help reduce some of the texture, make sure that we can pull it off. So we're rolling it up, and you are going to be kind of slowly rolling it. This is going to be pushing the clay even in it, so it's about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. It's like a toothpaste. When you squeeze toothpaste up from the bottom, that's what the inside looks like. All right, keep going until you don't feel resistance. Feel like you're captaining a pirate ship with the handle. Go ahead and peel it off. There's going to be a pretty heavy texture from the burlap, from the canvas on it. So we need to take care of that. Use the scraper. I think these are like what? Plaster scrapers, drywall scrapers or whatever. That helps knock just that texture off. If you leave it, it'll look like there's burlap or like a grid, which is like fine if you want, but you might as well get rid of it if you can. Flip it over to the other side on your workspace, so that way you can take care of the marks on the inside there too. So Kyle, you're human, right? Whenever you put that down on the table, it kind of reshifted the thickness of the clay. Go ahead and grab a rolling pin, and just try to even that out a little bit, all right? Doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be. Since you rolled it, you want to take it off. What's it called? Unsealing it. All right, so this is your template for the tumblers, Kyle. It was a cup from Honeymoon Cafe, a paper cup where we cut it up. And then we traced that to a Coke Zero box. Shout out to the old Coke Zero flavor. It tastes terrible compared to the new one, but that is the box I'm using right now. You want something stiffer so that way you can outline it without as much resistance, or like a piece of paper, it can shift, you can tear the piece of paper. So having this box is very helpful. And also, if you ever loan these out, make sure to get them back, because I don't think you ever made duplicates of this and you loaned this out. Oh no. Rohan. I'm sure he doesn't have it. I'm sure I got it somewhere. Anyway, you can get about 3 from about 4 pounds of clay. You're going to take this excess clay, and you're going to wedge it up. Wedge, and you're going to run it through the roller again. This is to make the bottoms. So go ahead and unseal it from the canvas table, because it's wet, it's going to want to seal. And that's that clay you wedged up from before. We do the same thing. We need to just drag out the little marks on it. And now using a cookie cutter, we are going to cut out as many circles as we can. I say as many as you can because, I mean, like what? You're not going to re-wedge and do all that again to this, right? So go ahead and just get what you need out of it. The excess from this, you'll be able to turn into slip, though, and that'll be like the amount of slip you need for a long time. Go ahead and seal them up. Maybe give them a little spray. I didn't there, but you know what? We learned a lot, Kyle. We learned a lot. Spray inside that bag because they are going to dry out. The white stoneware dries out pretty quick. So this is our linoleum block. I think I got the image from Photo Bucket or one of those places where you pay for the licensing rights. And I transferred it to linoleum and I carved it pretty deep because I wanted some different textures to it. Any mark that you make is going to imprint into the clay. That's important to note, okay? So the secret to all this, the main secret that makes this whole engine go, is cornstarch. Not any specific clay material or anything, just normal cornstarch. Use it to thicken up your chili. You're just going to give it a nice generous dusting, and it's going to act as a resist. Make it so your linoleum block and the clay don't stick together, which they will want to do because both are pretty absorbent, and they will want to grip each other. All right, take your little cutout piece. Don't worry if it doesn't fit perfectly. We're going to be having to cut it out again anyway because, you know, you want to be pretty refined. Speaking of refined, you have since made this a little bit easier. With the rolling pin, you want to start from the middle push up and then middle push down. You don't want to shift it too much because it can double print, and no one likes that, right? No one. Give it a little bit of extra helping hands because I want to make sure. I was nervous. This was my first time recording a video of this. I wanted to make sure it worked. And there we go. Isn't she lovely? All right, recommendation, Kyle. Do a lot of these at the same time. Even you can use the same block over and over. Those look fine. But you have tons of linoleum blocks. You carved this one specifically for this as well. But your main job is making lino blocks, so you got plenty. This one, I will say, works, but it wasn't as deep as the other one, so it didn't actually work as well. So pay attention to your blocks, Kyle, to make sure that you have the right depth to it. All right, as I said before, you need to cut these out again. It's going to make it easier whenever you stick them together, so if you need to cut it out like 15 times, I don't care, all right? You and me here. You are going to cut this out as many times as possible to make sure that it lines up right the first time. Because when it doesn't line up and you think you're doing well and then something goes wrong, it is way worse than having to just do this 10-second thing and re-outline it. So, don't complain, Kyle. All right, you're going to repeat this process on all the other ones. And again, it seems mundane, but you got to do it. All right, take those little biscuits from before. We're going to push them into some of the lino here, just to give it a little bit of texture. You know, give a little secret on the bottom of the mugs, bottom of the cups. You want them to look nice. Plus, that texture will help them sit a little bit flatter. All right, now let's actually do this thing. It's been 9.5 minutes and I haven't actually showed you how to do this. Remember that other part of the video when you saw me doing this? Disregard that. This is the time to roll that roller. It's going to put it at a slight angle, and that's going to make it a more like palpable place to put your mouth, because these are cups, right? You're going to drink out of them and all that. So you want it to be slightly angled, slightly tapered. Makes it easier to drink out of. All right, so you got this thing face down at a 45-degree angle. You're holding your hand with a fettling knife, going right down the side. They do have tools made specifically for this. You don't have one of those tools. You have this fettling knife. So keep your hand in the same orientation going both ways, all right? Speaking of tools, here's some you're gonna need. This is like a weird sponge thing on a stick. Someone left it in my station, so I just decided it was mine. A brush, a wood fettling knife, and the most important thing here is a serrated rib. The serrated rib is nice, gotta say. There's that white stoneware you were talking about from earlier, the white stoneware slip. It's just some glorp you mixed up from some of the remnants. Please, Kyle, try to make sure and make this stuff in advance. Don't try to just make it day of. You do that, and it's really frustrating. All right, so what we're doing is we're slipping and scoring. And slipping and scoring is opposite. It should be called scoring and slipping, but the other way just sounds better. So we're taking the serrated rib, and we are scoring and roughening up the edges, making tons of tiny little lines. It's kind of like Velcro. We're gonna then put slip on top of this. But you know how Velcro kind of grips into each other? Like how they kind of like, you know, that sound, that Velcro sound. We're going to be doing that same sort of thing, but with clay. So they're gonna grip into each other. And that's kind of the main goal here, is you want them to grip into each other. And the slip, just make sure that when they grip, they hold on forever. Like if I were to be holding hands with somebody, I could let go, but if someone wrapped my hand in, I don't know, tar, my hands are gonna be stuck for a while, right? Same idea with this, except for this becomes rock whenever it's fired, you know? So we're just gently pushing them together. We're not squeezing. That's important. We're pushing, not squeezing. I know that sounds like an arbitrary difference, but when you squeeze, it tends to push the clay, like to distort the clay. And you can already see here we kind of distort it. We don't want to distort the clay. So we're pushing. We're trying to get those Velcro strips to grab onto each other, all right? Go ahead and try to even out some of those areas where you messed it up. You're not great at this. You're okay. All right. You got to remember that. You'd rather be on a wheel right now. That's important to know. You'd rather be on a wheel watching it spin around and watching the clay go up and down. You'd rather be doing that. But you can't print into the side of those as easily. And considering your main thing is being a printmaker, you might as well try to incorporate this more into it. I do like how a lot of these turned out. Later, I will show you how to do a mug, Kyle. And those turned out really cool. All right, same thing as before. We're not squeezing. We're just pushing. And we're using that weird tool from the mug video that I found on the ground. You're gonna smooth some of those joints out. And you can use whatever you need, man. To get the joints on the inside, you can see that little spot right there. You want to smooth them out as well. I like using like anything circular, like tubular, well, the end of a brush works really well. Really anything works better than this thing does right now. But you know what? You were feeling it that day. That's just what you were using. But you want to smooth that out. And again, we are not squeezing, we are pushing. It already looks dope, right? Already looks dope. Same thing as before. We need to slip and score the base of the clay cookie, disc. Cookie. I like cookie. You want to score that. You only want to do it on the edge because you don't want to make it all over. And we're scoring the top of the bottom of the tumbler over there. That nice canonical shape. Canonical? No. Canonical. No. Conical. Canonical is, all right. Yes, conical shape. Slipping and scoring both sides. All right, once you feel good about your life choices, you're gonna just go over a little tap right down. A little. Yes, that. Just to help those Velcro strands grip together a little bit better. Good. Once you have it nice and centered on there, give it a few little whaps on the table. It's going to help those little Velcro areas kind of stick together better. Go grab your wooden fettling knife. There it is. And you are going to smooth out that excess. That's why it doesn't fit perfectly on there. That's on purpose, Kyle. You want it to a little bit of extra clay so you can smooth it out. And go ahead and do this all the way around. As slowly as possible. This process actually doesn't take very long. It just seems like it takes long because nothing's spinning fast on a wheel. Huh. All right, a little dark in there right now. I can't really see it right, but you want to go ahead and smooth that out. That's why we get that weird sponge thing on the end of a stick. That's going to smooth the joints a little bit and get rid of some of the excess slip. Also, the end of a paintbrush works really well for that too. So you want to help increase the tension between the joints is all. Couple little more smacks. And then I like to roll the edge. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. And that's going to make it nice and smooth now. All right, now try to fix any problems of it being a little wonky, anything like that. Don't worry, it's going to wonk back up, so don't ruin your life. Let's see this real fast, though. So I got it scored. Throw some slip on there, some beautiful sour cream. Join the joints. Nice and smoothed out using all your tools that you have available. Feels like you have a lot, but you could probably go without using a lot of them, I'll say. But, you know, you find things on the ground, you keep them. That one had a little bit too much clay on the outside, so you go ahead and take a fettling knife and smooth it out. Cut off the excess. And if this doesn't end up perfectly round on the bottom, you know, it's fine. Smooth it out, push in a little bit on the bottom. Now when I used a cup to help hold it together. You don't always have to do that though. So here we're smoothing the lip out, so we're putting a little bit of water using a sponge. And then since we're on a Lazy Susan, we can kind of spin it and use the crook of our finger to smooth it out. Are those called other things than Lazy Susans? I've never met a Susan that was very lazy. And that is a very boring, predictable joke. Great job, Kyle. I'm glad you haven't changed. All right, just repeating the process. Water, smooth out. You can be a lot better at this. It takes time, though. It takes patience. Once you get them all ready, go ahead and cover them up. I like to leave them on a canvas table because that helps hold moisture from moisture from underneath. Okay, so here's an alternative way of doing this. This is also going to involve how to make a cup. So hear me out, Kyle. What if you put the block face down on the clay in the press? What an idea. So two things. This really reduces the clay thickness, so that's kind of a problem because you want a thicker clay. And two, I don't know what the second problem was. For some reason, I don't like it. I feel like they break easier like this, if that makes sense. Oh, everyone say hi to Chris. I feel like they break easier like this. That's why I don't do it as frequently. But it do work. It gives you a nice, clean impression the entire way. So once you got it, go ahead and grab your block and just use that as going to be the outline. Here I'm just using that as a little template to cut it out using my fettling knife. You know, don't overthink it. You don't got to use rulers if you don't have to. Cut it out exactly. Just a straight line makes it a lot easier. You can do it without it totally. Believe in you. Believe in you, Kyle. But you got it, you might as well use it. Speaking of not using rulers, though, we're going to use a ruler to measure this in half. So we're taking this one block and we're turning it into 2 mugs. So instead of doing the tumbler that's at an angle, you know, like a cup, these are going to be straight up and down on the side, like a nice sturdy mug you might keep pens in your office desk. But same idea still apply. 45-degree angle cut on the edge, both going the same direction. Keep your hand in the same direction. Yeah, whip. You can cut more off or less off it. It doesn't bother me, Kyle. You're okay. All right. So you're gonna score it, slip it. Some of that sour cream. But instead of trying to get that cone shape to stick, you're not going to be as worried about that. You're going to just purely do a straight up and down seam. All right, straight up and down. And the same idea as before, smooth it out. You're going to smooth it out. The nice thing, though, about this seam, I will say, oh, well, I guess I'll say it later. Well, but same idea applies with this, except for instead of using a cookie cutter to cut the shapes, you're going to just put your cylinder on a little slab of clay and cut a circle around it. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. What I might recommend to you, Kyle, to put a board down or something, because you've had trouble with that sticking in the past. All right, so you got your cylinder made. That's all that matters. Same thing as the mug video previously, which you can refer to if you need to. You're going to extrude some clay handles. But what's nice about this slip score is we're going to attach that on the seam. I know, right? Killer. Well, that's going to do 2 things for us. One, it's going to help cover the seam because it's kind of ugly. And 2, it's going to help strengthen the seam by adding more clay to it. So it makes it actually a much better seam than it was before. Same thing as before. Use the mug handle, tap it in there to show where you want to put the mug. Scrape up the area where it touched. Slip it up. Watch it drift away. And you need to be careful about attaching this one because you can just split the whole thing. So, be safe. It's the same thing as before. Attach the handle, cover it up loosely, let it sit for a while. So, not every pony grows up to be a Pegasus. Opposite from where the seam is, there's a good chance you're going to get a crack. And if you do, RIP. Destroy the thing. You can use that to make more slip or something, Kyle. But we're going to take our little green scrubby pad and we want to smooth out some of the hard edges on those, all right? Pop them in the bisque kiln. Once you get them out, we need to rinse them off. Remember, rinsing, Kyle, is just you want to really get in all those nooks and crannies. But it probably doesn't matter too much on this one. I think it was just an opportunity for me to be lazy and not have to worry about doing anything. Because the way we glaze them isn't going to matter. waxing the foot, you can dip the foot in and then kind of spread it around using a brush. That's an option. It's not an ideal option, but there really isn't too much of an ideal option, you know? Right off camera. Love to see it. Love to see it. So there's several ways you can do this, Kyle. I'm going to show you just with black, though, okay? This is Cone 6 black. Make sure you wake it back up. Blend it for probably a minute or so to get all the particulates moving. There's a lot of heavy elements and stuff that settle towards the bottom in this. You got to really get them moving, you know? All right, when dipping these, we're not dipping it like a normal, like, oh, we could do 6 seconds, got to make sure everything's perfect. We're more concerned about getting the inside coated in glaze, so that way that looks nice. That doesn't really require too much work, though. And then we're going to take a sponge, and we're going to wipe the bottom off first, of course. But then we're going to kind of dab it on the side to get any excess glaze off that we can now. Once you do that, you're going to let it sit. You're going to sit for a while. You can throw these out into the sun, but you need to let this sit for a while. If it's damp at all before you do the next process, it doesn't like it. It's upset at you, Kyle. Now you can see just kind of getting that top layer off. Top layer. Don't push in. Do not, Kyle, please. Don't push in. Mug, same thing, all kind of same process with all these. But you can glaze other things like that. Miley blue works really well with a little bit of white coming down the top. You'll see what that looks like in the end. You can do other glazes. Transparent glazes work pretty well, like, you know, nice green. Celadon, those sort of things. See, don't forget to wipe off the bottom. It does like to get stuck in areas, so, you know. And that's a wall. All right, so once they dry, make sure you put on a mask, and we are using that green scrubby pad to make contact with just the outside part of the pot. So basically, Kyle, what we're doing is an intaglio process from printmaking. We're rubbing the glaze into the lines and removing the top layer, but instead of using tarlatan, like with a copper plate, you're using a green scrubby pad. And it's gonna knock off the top layer of glaze. And it's kind of amazing. You can overwipe it, so just be careful. But it works pretty well every time. Let's take another look at how this is done. See, these are a lot more rounded compared to the harsh lines of the other one. So it's easier to lose definition, so you want to be careful with that, all right, Kyle? And with the mug, you want to just be careful of that handle. Try not to hit that handle at all if you can help it, Kyle. Because we want that to be a nice smooth black over there, untouched by the green scrubby pad. So once you got a nice scraped off, you're going to just lightly with a sponge, a clean sponge, you're going to lightly just kind of tap that top layer off. You don't want to push in, because it'll remove more than you want, but it's very light, like a safe cracker. Very light touch. Make it seem like you were never there from the beginning. That's how it should have always looked. And just a reminder, it's a nice gentle touch. Be careful with the mug handle again. We want that to be nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. All right, when loading up the Cone 6 kiln, make sure you take your time that these are spaced nicely apart. Don't worry about overcrowding the kiln, you know. Just make sure that they looking nice. There we go. Yes, that's it. Do your best contemplation face whenever you're loading the kiln up. Quick reminder, with the Cone 6 kiln, anything that touches the other thing in the kiln will stick to each other forever. So, at least an inch apart, maybe a little bit more if you're being a little bit safer. That's really it. All right, how to run the kiln. Cone fire. We want to preheat for 1 hour because I generally put these in a little bit cold. Firing it to cone 6, slow speed, hold 8 minutes because Todd told you to. When you're ready, hit start. About a day and a half, out come these beauties. Would you just look at that? The glaze recesses into the lines. The top part, the part you carved out in the clay, will become the clay body color, so white or beige. Here's some other options of what you can do. So it's a blue thing I was telling you, using blue with white. Other types of clay bodies. But yeah, there's a lot more to this process than you started yet, Kyle. All right? You can do a lot more with this, I think. But yeah, really excited to see what you can do with it. See you later, man.